Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Pro Wrestling Straight Shooter. I'm your host DJ. Thank you guys as always for watching, coming back and subscribing. Going to jump right in today. I got a lot to talk about. As a matter of fact, I may break this up into two separate videos because there's a lot to go over. Huge news broke this week with WWE and in the wrestling world, sent shockwaves all over Twitter and Facebook. Dean Ambrose has opted not to renew his contract with WWE come April, right after WrestleMania. All signs are pointing to him being out the door after that. There's a lot of speculation as to why. A lot of people thinking, there were different reasons as to why he might leave. Going to kind of give you my opinion on that, talk about it a little bit, tell you what I think may be going on, as well as how I personally feel about the whole situation. Going to start right off personally. I'm defeated. I'm a little bit, not a little bit, I'm a lot disappointed. Dean Ambrose is one of those guys that really got me back into watching WWE programming. I took a break from WWE from about 2007 until somewhere around 2011-ish. What drew me back in initially was, the John Cena Rock feud, and, I tuned in to watch that, but then what was going on around them was so good. You had stuff going on with CM Punk, but then you had The Shield. You had Seth Rollins, Dean Ambrose, and Roman Reigns, and those guys, specifically Dean Ambrose, really kind of, drew me back into, hey, I want to see what's going on with these guys, because Dean was just, for me, he was kind of a throwback to the Attitude Era character, and he just had a look about him and a presentation about him that I dug, and, obviously a lot of people did as well. He became immensely popular on WWE programming, really got a sense that he could have been the next guy. A lot of people disappointed that he didn't end up being the next guy. I think there are reasons for that I both agree and disagree with, and I'll talk about, again, just my opinion, throwing it out there, a little bit more about what I think may have happened in terms of Dean Ambrose not exactly being the main guy, the face of the company that WWE went with. As I said, from a personal standpoint, just gutted, disappointed that the guy's leaving. I look forward to seeing him on TV every week, look forward to seeing him at the pay-per-views. Dean Ambrose has really provided a lot of moments for me that as a wrestling fan and as a guy who used to be in the business, just really, truly appreciated. I think where some of the speculation with Dean Ambrose leaving is that, he became frustrated with creative. There's a lot I'll talk about on the next video as far as that goes. I don't necessarily disagree with that sentiment. And that, he was tired of doing the hokey stuff. You know anything about Dean Ambrose's life prior to WWE, you know what he did outside of there. You know the death matches, the Jon Moxley character, everything he was doing prior to going over to, I think it was actually FCW before it became NXT, and then eventually coming up to the main roster and, just exploding in WWE. But he really is, and if you watch the Stone Cold podcast several years ago when, Stone Cold interviewed Dean, you really got more of an insight as to who that guy was. He's a throwback to an era of wrestling that is really sadly kind of going away. He's one of those old school call it in the ring guys. And he talked at length about that, how he's a guy who really had to try and force himself to adapt to the way that WWE does its booking, the way that it works its matches, and the way that it structures its shows. Being a guy who was used to calling it in the ring, even, he said at certain times I would go out in the ring, we wouldn't even have the finish planned out, and we would make it up as we go along. And it's very difficult to break away from that type of training when that's all you've done, that's what you were groomed on, that's what you were raised on, and that's what you grew up in the business doing, to get into WWE where everything's scripted down to the last letter, your promos are scripted, your matches are planned out ahead of time, the finishes are predetermined. For you to kind of switch gears and go in a different direction and try and retrain your brain is a little difficult. He made it work. He had a fantastic career in WWE. I think towards the end of it all, he probably felt a little bit creatively stifled. I think there's a lot of things that he may have wanted to do as the Dean Ambrose character that WWE just won't allow on their programming. Where they're at as a company is light years away from where they were in the Attitude Era. And as I said at the beginning of this, Dean Ambrose as a character and as a worker is more of a throwback to the Attitude Era. And while I dig that, it certainly made me a fan. It's very difficult to present that in today's environment, at least as far as the WWE is concerned. And my thought process is he probably got a little bit frustrated. I'm not saying he wants to go back to the death matches where he's got chainsaws in the ring and cheese graters and he's bleeding like a stuck pig. But as a performer, as a wrestler, as an artist, people are throwing around the term art as it comes to wrestling these days. As an artist, you really feel like if you can't present your character the way you think it ought to be. I can understand where that would get a bit frustrating, where you would feel creatively stifled. Going back again to the Stone Cold podcast with the Big Show stated on there one time that you have people writing segments for WWE and going out there and telling you what you should be doing in front of people in a wrestling ring at a wrestling show who've never set foot in a wrestling ring. And I think if you've never been in a ring, it's hard for you to tell somebody what to do when they go out there, because when you're in front of that live crowd, what sounded like might be a good idea in the back and you're out there and the crowd is hot doesn't always translate well. And if you're a wrestler, you need to be able to think on the fly and change directions as the crowd dictates. And that's more, I think, what Dean Ambrose is used to doing in a match. If you're doing something and they're not buying it, you got to shift gears, slap a rest hold, and do something else. And it's hard to book that when you've never experienced that. And as a performer, he likely felt a little bit stifled and a little bit like, look, this ain't the way I want to do it. And that's not necessarily saying WWE's doing it wrong. They're just not doing it in a way that I think jives with his personality as a person and jives with the way that he likes to conduct himself in the ring. He probably wants a little bit more creative and expressive freedom. I don't necessarily fault him for that. Like I said, disappointed that he's leaving. And that's really all I can say about that. I hope maybe somewhere down the line he'll, rethink things, go out, sow his oats a little bit more, think about it, say, hey, maybe it's time to come back. Maybe, sit on the couch for 2 years, man. I mean, it's hard to say what he might do, and everybody's speculating. Is he going to go all elite? Is he going to go to Japan? Is he going to go back down to Mexico? Is he going to go here? Is he going to go there? And, there's nobody really knows for sure what he's going to do but him. And, whatever he does, I'm sure he'll be fairly successful at it. But I'm going to put a bold statement out here. I think no matter what he does post-WrestleMania, I think in 2 to 4 years we see Dean Ambrose back inside of a WWE ring. That's what I'm going with. I'm hopeful that he will. But we'll see, man. Anyway, if nothing else, I know he'll probably never see this. Dean, thank you for everything you gave to me as a wrestling fan, and gave the WWE universe. Best of luck with whatever you do. I'll try and follow you as best I can. And that's really all I'm going to say about that. Next episode, what I'm going to pick up on is expound a little bit more on not only Dean Ambrose leaving, but Hideo Itami has asked for his release, and publicly WWE has granted that, as well as speculation of other people wanting their releases. I'm going to talk about that in the next episode and whether or not I think that's a sign or a symptom of larger problems in the WWE. Guys, if you dig what I'm doing, please share my videos, subscribe, get my name out there. I'm trying to build my audience up. I want to try and increase the production value of the show. I love you guys. Thank you for watching. I'm out.